Well,
There we go.
here we are. And look who's also here.
Uh, I forget their names.
This one's Sarah,
Sarah.
and then or
Mhm.
Seraphina, or as Jess calls her, Sarah Elizabeth Jane, Morris White, and the other one's Guinevere Jean Morris White.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So welcome. Thanks so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me here
Yeah, I'm
today.
glad to have a chat.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You're someone who has been, I've always really admired your ability to really hold space
Oh,
for people.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, thank
I,
you.
I may never have given you this compliment before, so let me
No.
just go ahead and compliment you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I've always really enjoyed in our friendship, and always, had that kind of like feeling of like, oh yeah, I'm so glad Zuyapa's out there holding really good space for people, for her clients. So let me just take a moment and introduce. This is Zuyapa Jackson, also a spiritual healer, teacher, and guide in the Modern Mystery School, located in New Orleans, which is where you grew up, correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah. Spent a lot of time in New York City also, though, yeah?
Yeah, I just spent about 13 years in New York, but I actually before that was international, like South Africa and Europe, and then before that I was here, and before that I was in Colorado. So I've basically been all over. I lived here until I was 17, and then from there it's been, the world as an
Yeah,
oyster.
yeah, that's so fun, and gives you also a great, a lot of wisdom and life experience for, I mean,
That's right.
everything in life. Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm,
So
mhm.
thank you so much for being here. I have a lot I want to talk to you about,
All
um,
right, let's see.
but let's get right into it. But first, I'd love to just get like a little bit of the story. And I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if I actually know this story about you, of how of how you found mystery school work, how you sort of like. So I'd love to hear sort of like the Cliff Notes version of how you came to do this work, anything that you've noticed, just sort of like to give some context for our viewers.
Okay, so um, I think there's three main points to the foundation of the story. One, I've really always been trying to, I mean, since I was young, I can remember always trying to find a way to help people
Mm.
in whatever way I knew to at that moment, you know? So that, took me to corporate, working in HR, all kinds of things, right? But I was always trying to figure out how to help people. And then, later on in life, when I was going through my own spiritual reawakening, I'll say, um, okay, so the story goes like this. And it's a cool story because we all have feelings about social media, right? And don't get me wrong, social media up to date is not the same as social media when it first started. But so in my working with spiritual stuff and teachers and healers, I knew about something called Adam Kadmon activation. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, I want
Mm.
that. It's like awaken your Earth Angel DNA. And I'm like, I want that.
Sign me up, whatever
Yeah,
that is. Yes, I
exactly.
need it.
But the way that I knew about it, it was not through the lineage. It was through another person who was doing it and not in the US.
Ah,
And so I didn't really have the opportunity to do it. And then one day on Facebook, I saw an event that was Adam Cadmon activation, and I was
ah.
like interested.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was Yoko and Lorraine.
Cool.
And so Yoko responded. I couldn't go that time actually, but Yoko sent me a message being like, "Hi, you look so nice. I love your smile." And so,
I mean, valid, valid.
yeah, okay, fine. I get it. And then so I ended up meeting up with her, and really the rest is history. Like what she said to me and the way it was sitting in front of her, it really moved something in me, and I was able to express like desires that I'd never told anyone. And so eventually, it took a couple meetings. Like it takes time. I don't try and rush anybody into this process because it really does take time sometimes.
Yeah,
And it took a couple meetings of her sitting down with me and taking the time for me to then actually do life activation. And then
yeah,
when I did it, I was like, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for the whole time.
yeah.
Because I was doing Reiki. I'm sorry, this is one more point.
Yeah,
I
no,
was like doing Reiki and like teaching meditation and helping people already, but I knew something was missing. Like I could see, yeah, they might feel more at ease or kind of more relaxed, but I knew something was missing. And I even called my business at the time, Activate Your Life, Energize Your Being. And then, so then when I received the life activation, I was like, this is what I was looking for to offer the whole time. Because I
Yeah.
woke up so that I knew other people could like wake up, like the spark in their eyes, could light up.
Yeah.
So that was my
Yeah.
foundation of
Yeah.
how it started.
And it's really interesting how you said like it took time, and this might, this conversation could very easily, I could see, like roll into like what I actually want to talk about you about is like the podcasting and interviewing work that you've been doing around like why we heal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like how you brought up like how it took time for you to actually receive the life activation, and even and you knew that you were looking for it, like a part of you knew that you were looking for it, and then even like some of like the resistance that you had to move through between like the time of like seeing that, that those words, Adam Cadman activation, right, which we now call galactic
Galactic
activation.
activation. That's
Yeah.
right.
And I had a similar experience with that of being like, I don't know what that is, Adam Cadman, I don't know what, but I know that I want it. That's actually what
Okay.
got me back into the school after spending some time off. But it's like how interesting that time from like being like, oh, I want this, to actually receiving it,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's like this alchemical process and like self-initiation that we have to go
Mm-hmm.
through within ourselves,
Absolutely.
that's just our own process, and what I mean, we have to come to it sort of on our own. So yeah, and that healing process, and how all healing is self-healing. So we spoke for a while back, and you've been interviewing different people about this concept of why we heal,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like, we had our interview, and then I listened to some of the other interviews that you did, and I was like, oh man, like this is really like this is like such an incredible um uh topic, and it's just a perfect example again about how you're someone who can, I think that the one of the characteristics of like mastery in of some sense is being able to take very simple topics and make them complex, and the same way vice versa is how to make very complex topics and making them simple, which is something that I think that you do really well when
Thank
it comes
you.
to energy and healing and things like that. So I'd love to hear anything that you'd like to share, like of all the interviewing that you're doing, anything that has like stood out or that you've learned yourself from talking to these other guides and healers about healing.
Yeah, I learned a lot actually. It's been so eye-opening for me, as well as I hope, the viewers in the audience, but they seem to be responding pretty well, so I would say that that's true. There's two things that have stood out to me so far as being consistent. One is that many people's idea of healing is different, but that idea of healing also evolves as their experience with healing evolving. So part of the thing about my show is I intend to bridge the gap, right? Because there's this layer of people who don't know anything about it. They may be still going through very like earthly problems, like health issues, relationship stuff, just feeling not well inside, depression, anxiety, anything, right? Like trying to eat better, trying to work out, anything. And then there's also people who are on the journey, or who know that there's something more, or who have started healing in some form, or their consciousness is open in some way. But then how can I bridge the gap and say healing is for everyone? It's not really about where you are, what, like your demographic or anything like that. There is, as long as you are here, you have a body and a soul, and spiritual energy can pour into you, there is healing work to be done.
Yeah.
And so really a big thing is expanding the concept of what healing is so that it's more accessible to people. And then the other thing that I noticed is that it's all about choice. That's one of the main things that almost everyone has said. Because, one of the main questions that I say is, what in your perspective is healing? And then I talk about like their journey on that process, and it's choice. We are creative. We are creators, creator gods and goddesses. We are all empowered in our own lives, and we can choose to change, or we can choose not to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say there's also something about like the difference in shifting and changing. I've been contemplating that recently, that, when sometimes we think about like, oh, I'm going to therapy, or I've healed this thing, or like I've worked through this thing. And you may have made a shift in your perspective, or you may have made a shift in the way that you approach your life or the world, or in anything, but have you changed? Has something changed to where you are now effortlessly a better person?
Mm.
You are effortlessly feeling lighter in your heart and soul, right? Like to me, that's a huge part of what healing really is. That, and I do find that difference with lineage healing because it's basically like it's excavating and opening up space that we can anchor in more of our light. And so the healing happens because we are now embodying more light. And in that light, we're pushing out all the other density that's anxiety, depression, food cravings, all those things kind of like dissolve and go away. And I like to say without trying, which I
Yeah,
think is like the biggest magic that happens ever. I'm like, I didn't even try.
right.
I'm off sugar,
Exactly. Exactly. But like, and I'm glad you brought it up. Like, that's kind of like the difference between the lineage work and some other stuff is because like you can have an awareness of like, yeah, I know I probably shouldn't eat foods. Yeah, I know probably shouldn't engage in that pattern of behavior. And yeah, I know I shouldn't be thinking these thoughts. But it's like even having that awareness or like opening that awareness of like, I want to change this. Then it's kind of like, well, what are the other choices? And
Yeah.
that's a lot of like what we do these sessions, the activations, the initiations that opens up that potential for new energy to come in.
Hmm.
But then it still comes down to like, will you choose it? Like, will
That's
you choose
right.
the other
That's
thing?
right.
But activations and initiations make it possible
Yeah.
for that choice to happen.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we exist. I was explaining to someone the other day in the pool how we exist, like on certain frequencies. And, if you receive that activation or you receive that initiation or you do even, like we're both talking about the King Solomon healing modality these days because, it's our new thing and it's so amazing
Right. Right.
how it really shifts something so that you can bring in and hold, like anchor in more light into your system
Mm.
and your being. And
Yeah.
it's just like a closet. You bring in more light, so then what you can see changes. But
Right.
then what you do with everything that you see, then is your choice.
Right.
So then that's also your healing, right? Like healing isn't only when you are in the room or in the office or on the table. It starts, it's happening in every choice that you make because you are repatterning yourself, you
Right.
know, and like
Right.
changing those subconscious patterns and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
And how every choice is, I mean, science has said this, like every choice you make changes your DNA
hmm
on like minute levels, but it's still, so it's like, yeah, the choices that you make. And yeah, the healing really, because when we started talking about this, I said, briefly touched on that all healing is self-healing, you know? So, and that's something that I said in sort of like our conversation,
yeah.
because that's like we provide that potential. We provide that like opening, sometimes a lot of times I'll say people like, imagine your life is like, this hallway where there's like all these doors, but you're keep walking through the same one over and over again, right?
hmm
We
hmm
turn the lights on and we say, actually, there's a whole bunch of possibilities. There's a whole bunch of doors. I'm going to hand you a bunch of keys to a bunch of doors. You go and you decide which door you would like to enter, which door you would like to walk through. Because I can never know what ultimately is right for anybody else,
hmm
but also they're also never going to know if they don't take that step
That's
forward and
right.
discover it for themselves. So it's really like, just like turning those lights on, right? Creating that potential for change, for people to move forward. And I also love that you brought up the King Solomon Healing Modality series because yes, we're talking about it a lot. And the more I like really connect with that healing modality series, it's like it really does touch on what I love about the lineage work is it really does touch on in every aspect of our healing. Like no
hmm
stone is left unturned, and we can really make really thorough, permanent, positive transformation in our lives when we're touching on every aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember in class when we were taking a training for this, and
Mm.
I told a story about how when I first went through the whole series, and I was seeing the chiropractor at the time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and when I finished the series and it was done, and I went to the chiropractor, she commented on how my spine was different, like how it
Mm.
was stronger and just kind of more aligned. And to me, that was so profound because it showed that like completing that series is a way for me to, what we say, come into myself, like come into my
Yeah.
body. Because when you're very intuitive and spiritual and sensitive, which I've always been, you have a tendency to like not be grounded
Yeah.
and to kind of live your life almost like, you're there, sure, but are you really, really there? And
Right.
then so, being able to really, I don't know, I guess kind of sink into myself, it just made my physicality stronger, I guess you could
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, it was similar for me when I received it, in that I really accepted that, I was worthy of being here,
Yeah.
because like you said, being really sensitive, it's like I'm just gonna it's not safe here, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
here.
Not safe.
This isn't a good place for me.
Yeah.
But so it's like coming to realize that like my life was worth living, that I had a mission, my mission
Mm-hmm.
was important, and that my mission was doable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could achieve this mission, like it was doable with the tools of the lineage, right? And that's why like I needed, and you obviously have needed the tools of the lineage to complete our life mission, right? Some people do, and that's why the lineage is here. Um, and and then having and then yeah, having received that session, it's like it brought all of those pieces. It got all of those pieces together of like, this is why I'm sensitive to
Yeah.
energy, because
Yeah.
this is what the world needs. The world needs to acknowledge energy. You also have a book,
I do have a
energy.
book, Energy Matters.
Yeah,
It's Energy Matters, a guidebook.
a guidebook. Yeah, because there's like there's worksheets, right, in it. It's like a
That's
workbook.
right.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a guide and I like to play on words. So,
Energy matters, energy
that's
works.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, energy matters, right? Like healing matters. Everything really matters, right? And it also comes into matter, so it matters to us. And so there's so many things we ignore, or don't pay attention to in our lives. And I'm glad that you brought up how the lineage tools help you to really fulfill your life purpose, because I knew that for me, mine was serving, right? Like when I was in Empower Thyself, I knew I was a guide. Like there was no
mm-hmm.
question about it for me. But what I
Wow.
love about this work is that I can also help people know what theirs was. Because for
Right,
everyone, it isn't to be a guide. It
right.
isn't. Maybe it's yours to make, like, I don't know, whatever yours is, but you should accomplish that life purpose,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah.
And I think that's also a misconception that people think, when you progress to the lineage that you have to, be a healer, you have to be a guide or anything. You don't. It's about fulfilling your specific mission that you decided on before you came here,
Right,
you know?
right. And that's what because I get a lot of clients ask the same, like, oh, if I do this next thing, does that mean I
Yeah.
have to be like you? And don't.
No,
I don't
no.
want another copy of me. I need you to be
Yeah.
you in the best way that you can. But the thing is that, like, like Healers Academy, for example, the second step initiation after Empower Thyself, even if your life purpose isn't to be a full-time healer, if you don't want to be opening a healing center, whatever, the thing about that second step initiation, I find, is that it opens your heart. And
Yeah.
whether your purpose is to, is in architecture or leadership or healing or whatever, or medicine or whatever it is, your heart needs to be open to achieve
Mhm.
that.
That's right.
And the other science is like, wouldn't it be great if you could, life activate all of your employees or all of your clients or whatever, just as a
Yeah.
side, flowing in their divine God potential awakened?
That's
It
right.
just might
No
it
big
just
deal.
might help a little bit. It's not going to hurt. But at the end of the day, yeah, having that open heart, on the foundation of knowing you're a spiritual being with an open and flowing heart, like, and all the tools and all the all the extra exponential light that comes with that, just makes achieving your purpose, whatever you were put here for, so much more doable, so much
And
more.
enjoyable. And enjoyable.
Yes. Yeah, the purpose is joy.
And you know what else too? I think why it really matters. I think as you progress, like, and you are awakening these things, right? Like having activation, doing healings, and all these things. It's showing you that the normal way to be normal
Mm-hmm.
is to feel. It is to sense.
Yeah.
It's the shut down way that we don't feel anything, that we are not attuned to the energies around us in the other dimensions of consciousness. Like that should be normal
Right.
because that is already there.
Right.
So,
Creates sickness. Not
yeah,
living in that feeling place
yeah,
creates full soul spiritual sickness.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
yeah.
Great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah,
We
nope, I'm happy to. But I do want to also tell people,
please
so
do.
season 1 of the Why We Heal show has
Oh
been
yeah.
out, and you can catch all the episodes on Spotify primarily. Of course, also on Apple Music and other platforms, but I definitely use Spotify the most. And I'm in the process of releasing and filming more for season 2. So it's also going to be very
And
cool.
the
And
Why We Heal.
why we heal. That's right. That's right.
On
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I have diverse guests, like I have my TCM doctor who's going to come on, and of course, like hired level teachers and guides in the lineage, as well as, my peers and wonderful friends in the lineage. But anyone really who like I've worked with for my own personal healing, whether it's physical, emotional, not really emotional, but physical, health wise, I generally have them on to talk about healing because it's what helped me. And sometimes we do need to get rid of the physical pains in order to approach the energetic pain, our spiritual self. We do need to work through whatever the thing is that is keeping us from being free enough or at ease enough to focus on the more subtle energies.
Right.
And so really, again, like all of it matters. And so energy matters, you matter.
You matter. We matter.
That's
We
right.
all matter.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Zuyapa, thank you so much for jumping on this call with me.
Thanks, Madison.
So, Zuyapa's social media, follow her show. Again, she's a wonderful resource. If you're anywhere near New Orleans or any of the places that she travels to, definitely check out a class or a meditation or anything with her. She's absolutely phenomenal. I'm so grateful for our friendship and to be alongside with you on this mission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Bye.